Just a minute. It might help if I turn on my microphone. Tuck on it. I even had a monitor in here. All of a sudden I realized, wait. Now. There we go. All right. Sorry about that, gang. Whew. All right. What did I say? Well, I said that you already saw this Daily Art Adventure 949. All that. I was saying hi to my good friend William, or AKA Buddy. This is a commission painting for Buddy up in Leesville Lake, Virginia. And then I was talking about doing glazes. I almost always, anytime I re-enter an oil painting that's dry, so it's a day or two old, I do another oil glaze. And the reason for that is, the simplest language might be that every glaze makes the colors richer. And I know at some point I'm losing you guys almost, because this corner down here looks very dark to you, but to the naked eye here in real person, there's a lot. You could see layers and layers and layers of stuff going on there. And that's the magic of transparent painting. You don't lose anything that's underneath. You just add stuff on top. So as the layers get thicker and thicker, the colors get richer and richer. Now I'm going to, up here, I'm going to be removing some of that. I just added a shadow right here, as you can perhaps see. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea. That was sort of, I'm experimenting, you know. So after finishing this glaze, what's going to be next? I think I might do, believe it or not, this would be different. I might do another or a second fuzz layer. Let's take care of one drawing problem right now. This big sweep of the big tree trunk curved like this, and then there's foliage up here in the corner, and if you'll notice, the edge of the foliage kind of too much echoes the curve of the tree trunk. You see there's like a line here, then there's kind of like another line here. Not pleasant. You don't want, sometimes we call it halos. You don't want, you know, a head and then a shape around the person's head shaped the same as their head. That's where the halo comes from. So if I would just get rid of this little bit of sky right here, it's going to take more than one layer. But if I can get rid of that sky, then that should go some way. I'm not done yet. Don't panic yet. I'll tell you when to panic. Now! Panic now! That looks terrible. Don't worry about it too much. Yeah, I can work with that now. I can fix it up from there. See, now I don't have an echo, another word. This curve, and then an echo of the curve. Now there's almost another place, like I have this right here, this little hump in the close-up trees, and I almost have, but not quite, if this. I think I can get away with that. It's so easy to accidentally slip into this kind of thing where you echo shapes, and it's usually not a pleasant effect. All right, that's working much better now. I'll finish up more details. Now let's come in here and where I just painted over purple blue on this sky. I'm going to remove some of it, not necessarily all of it. Right? If I want to remove all of it, I'll dip this rag in the Gamsol, the brush cleaner, and that will really take it off. But short of that, if I just rub it a little bit, it'll come off. The more I rub, the more it'll come off. You understand that? Yeah, that's better. Okay, good, good, good. You know, all of the painting process, I've said this several times, but it bears repeating, especially for any early journey painters that are watching me. All of painting is a guess. We, the artist, are guessing. We take a guess. I think, I think if I do this or that or this or that or this or that, it'll have this or that effect. Right? They're educated guesses. I'm not suggesting they're crazy, blind shots in the dark, but they're guesses nonetheless. Because before you do it, you don't know exactly, in fact, what it's going to look like. Like even right now, I'm guessing if I rag off the paint, you know, I'm having a guess what it's going to look like. After I do it, I go, oh yeah. Sometimes you go, oh, that looks great. Other times you go, it's not quite as good as I had hoped. Right? And part of the reason I point that out is I think sometimes that early journey painters, they think that good painters don't do that. That good painters know exactly what's going to happen. And of course, I mean, I'm sure my guess is, you know, way better than the average beginners. But no, we're still in the same live on the same planet you do. We're taking guesses. I think it's going to do this and that, thus and so. All right. Let me take just a second to clean these brushes at least halfway. All right. What next? Well, I think, as I said a minute ago, I think I'm going to do a second fuzz layer. The fuzz layer is opaque paint, that is to say it has white in it, or it could have yellow ochre, which is just as opaque as white, or Naples yellow. But anyway, generally speaking, opaque means you've mixed white with it. Generally, it's inferred. This has nothing, by the way, nothing to do with when you buy a tube of paint, it has this little square on the back telling you whether that tube of paint is opaque, transparent, or translucent. When I talk about transparent paints, I am not referring to that at all. Okay, so don't be confused. I'm not talking, you don't have to run out and buy quote unquote transparent paint. What makes my paint transparent is the medium I add to it, liquid. All right. So let's do a little more fuzz layer. Fuzz is, okay, I started describing it and then ran out of gas. The fuzz layer. Opaque paint applied very thinly, usually with a scumbling motion, which you will see shortly. If you don't know what scumbling is, just keep watching. I'm about to show you. So that the opaque paint, the so-called opaque paint, is actually very much translucent. Not transparent like glass. It's got a little bit of fuzziness to it, like wax paper, you know, so it's still, another word for it could be atmosphere. When you're doing a landscape, really any kind of painting, if you apply fuzz, translucent, it gives a sense of atmosphere. Hello to all you guys. Thanks for joining me again. poi Shero Nissan. Se le bien fresco al Pagne Miguel. Wow. Uncle asks, have I done an all oil painting? All oil? No, I presume you mean no acrylic. The answer is no, I have not. Not recently. It's been quite a while since I did such a thing. Almost all of my paintings are acrylic underneath and oil on top. The most common exception to that is when I'm doing a straight up portrait. Sometimes I'll do a portrait painting that is oil from the get-go. Yeah, I think I'm on the right track. Let's do more very pale, warm blue up here. Again, very soft edges on these trees. I want the trees to feel as though they're relatively far away. There are no mountains in this painting, so if there were, they would be much further away than the trees. But so in this painting, the furthest object other than the sky itself are these trees. So the edges of them are very soft, of course, very, very, very fuzzy edges. You almost cannot have too much perspective in a landscape. One of the most common mistakes made in landscape painting is to not have enough perspective. And in this case, I'm talking mostly or entirely about atmospheric perspective. And if you're painting from a photograph, especially if it's an amateur photograph, like probably the one that you or I take, you have to be careful not to be too influenced by that cheap photograph. Sorry to insult your photography, but I'm putting myself right in there with you. Because the camera will not capture atmosphere the way your painting should. So if you copy your photograph too carefully, you will have inadequate atmospheric perspective. One of the beauties of painting is that we get to exaggerate, magnify, emphasize atmosphere. It's one of the things we like in painting. I spoke, the last time I worked on this painting, I talked briefly about sky holes. And by the way, one of you sent me a delightful email asking me to critique your painting. And I forget your name now, but I am woefully behind on doing that. I will do so. But I'll go ahead and tell you that one of the chief challenges of doing, again, sky holes is making them, the mistake is making them all the same size, or making them too much the same size. The solution is to make a wide variety of sizes. And indeed, that was the challenge being faced by the nice lady who sent me a copy of her painting, asking me to critique her sky holes. So I hope you're listening, hope she is listening. I will respond as well to your email. But one of the things that is very hard for the human animal to do is random. We have a very hard time doing randomness because our brain is so hardwired for patterns, for order, for structure. So it's very hard for us to do random. In fact, there's a very interesting science, I don't know what it's called, but it turns out human beings cannot concoct a series of random digits, 1 through 9 and 0, or 0 through 9, if you will. Like if I gave you a piece of paper and said, okay, write down 100 digits that are random, you would think you were being random, but in fact, it turns out, and evidently this is firmly enough confirmed in the science, that forensic scientists can use this to discover financial fraud, stuff like that, because when people are making up numbers, the numbers we make up are distinctly different from a random number generator made up by, I mean if you're making it up. I'm supposed if you had a 10-sided dice, you could roll it and write that down. Has a little corollary to that just for fun, but having listened to that article and watched it and looked at it quite a bit, I think it has helped me. I'm sure I still can't do it, but I think I could do it well enough to fool, not a computer that's programmed, but I could fool human beings. And it's real simple. One of the ways you would do it is if you were making up, let's see if you are making up a series of numbers. We would start out by saying, okay, 2, 7, 5, 3, 6, 4, something like that. Here's what we would not do. If we were trying to invent random numbers, we would not say 2, 7, 5, 5, 5, 6, 2, 1. We wouldn't have a digit repeated 3 times in a row. In real randomness, such things do happen, but if a human being's pretending to do random. Anyway, let's get back to art. So it's hard for us to do random sky holes. Very difficult. Probably impossible, to tell you the truth. But nonetheless, that is our assignment when we're doing sky holes. They have to be random positioned, random placed, random size, and random hardness. Some hard, some soft. We've talked about that quite a bit. Should sky holes be hard or soft? Here we go. I'm going to give it to you again, just because there might be somebody new listening. Question is, class, should sky holes be hard or soft? Some of you smart alecks are already giving me the answer. Unless you've heard this before, forgive me, you're wrong. The technical answer to that, well, no, the shortest answer is they should be soft. The more accurate answer to that is they should be a combination of hard and soft. All right, you with me so far? But if you are a beginner painter, forget everything I just said. Until you really have, I'll say, mastered the art of sky holes, then forget what I just said. For you, sky holes are hard, not soft, hard. Until you really get them under your thumb, so to speak. Why? Because beginner painters invariably have a penchant for painting smudgy, making smudgy marks with their brushes. That's just, all beginners make smudgy marks. That's an exaggeration, I'm sure. But for all practical purposes, if you're a beginner, I just described your marks. You paint smudgy. And when it comes to doing sky holes, then you will do your sky holes smudgy. And they look awful. So until you get your sky holes down, Don't do smudgy, do hard edge. Another way to say that is you don't put enough paint on your brush and you don't take enough paint off your brush with each stroke. Okay? Now once you kind of master that, then you move to hard and soft, which is very much what you see up here. Okay, so that's the correct answer, and then the practical correct answer. If you're a beginner, start out with hard edge sky holes until you master them, and then start mixing in soft. Right now I'm doing pale green, still kind of fuzz layer, much more controlled than my usual fuzz, but soft edges nonetheless, fairly soft. This is my second fuzz layer, so I don't feel compelled to be quite as wild and crazy as I am, but I'm going to do some fuzz on the bright spots here in a minute, and those bits will in fact be softer edge than what I'm doing right now. Once again, buddy, if you're not watching right now, then I'll just say hi for when you are watching. Sorry it's taken me so long to get back to your painting. To tell you the truth, this is the painting I've been looking forward to the most for the last couple weeks, and it's the one I've had the hardest time getting back to. So Buddy has actually given me a commission to do a kind of painting that I enjoy perhaps as much as any other, which is fantasy landscape. Now this, I would say the fantasy element in this painting is so mild. You know, I don't have any outer space creatures, I don't have two moons in the sky and all that kind of stuff. So it could barely be called fantasy. So actually, if I were looking for a more precise term, I would probably call it an idealized landscape. Again, I mentioned earlier, kind of similar to the old English landscape painters of the early 20th, late 19th century. Maybe as far as mid 19th century, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how far back they went. But I think if you just Google English landscape painters or something like that, you should be able to, I'm guessing, Wikipedia should be able to find that for you. Okay, now this is why the term sky holes is most unfortunate. Most unfortunate. Because right now I'm doing quote-unquote sky holes down in this bushy tree, but it's not sky at all. It's the tree back here that is showing through, right? So it's unfortunate that I was not invited to the committee meeting 180 years ago, whenever the term sky holes was made up. It's very unfortunate, because it's a misnomer. It only works if it's actually sky. And many times in a landscape, it's not sky behind the trees, it's a mountain or a barn or a bow moose behind. Here's a deer. There'll be a little bit of a bush in front of this deer, and then that would be a deer hole. How absurd. So I'm trying to start a revolution. These should be called tree holes. Tree holes, my friends, not sky holes. Sure, I can't resist the old joke. I was actually teaching this one time to a class full of mostly women. Talked about, you know, tree holes, deer holes, you know, mountain holes, and one lady said, "Whatever you do, don't let your donkeys get loose behind the trees." That's all I'm going to say about that. It was a nice lady. It was a very nice lady that said that. That's what made it so funny. I couldn't believe this nice lady said that. Hilarious. Some of you are going, "What, Mommy? I don't get it." All right, then I'm not going to explain it. We're just going to leave it right there. All right, let's do a little bit of fuzz on the surface of the lake. So I'm using my razor, straight razor, to scrape the stuff off my glass palette. So I have room to mix more colors. And I think I can use these same brushes, just give them a vigorous rub. And now, what color? A little bit of blue. That is to say, in this case, ultramarine light. I accidentally, years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I accidentally bought a tube of ultramarine light, which, in my thinking, is an oxymoron. You shouldn't, it's a waste of money. Why would you buy? It was a mistake. And I can't wait. I'm trying to faithfully use it all up, but I hate it. If you want ultramarine light, just use less ultramarine. Does that make sense? Don't waste money buying something that... Ultramarine should be dark. It's only dark. Only has one color. It's dark. If you want it light, make it transparent or add white to it. One or the other. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. Aren't you glad I did? I feel so much better now. All right, so once again, the name of the game right now, and there's a lake back, you can see there's a lake back there, and I've got evidently steam coming off the lake. It doesn't, and that's not literally true. I'm not suggesting that necessarily. It's simply atmospheric perspective. I want the top of the lake to be fuzzy. So it's not just fog, it's light refracting into the air above the shiny surface of the lake. All right, so I already said it once, I'm going to say it again. It's virtually impossible to have too much atmosphere in a landscape painting. And if you're copying a photograph, be careful. The photograph is not going to help you. The photograph would show the surface of this lake as an absolute razor sharp edge. And if you're not careful, you'll accidentally paint it that way because that's what your eyes are seeing. So there's one of the dangers of painting from a photograph. Once again, over here, what is this? It's not sky hole, it's a lake hole. This is getting absurd. Oops, static, hang on just a second. There we go. So again, yeah, a lake hole, good grief. So let's call it tree hole, or maybe it's a bush hole. This is getting crazy. All right. Do you see that? Nice. Yeah. And right here, I'm going to bring, I have a little, my favorite term is coterminous. Here's a good example of a bad thing. I have a bush down here. It grows up and it stops right about there. It terminates at the same point as the lake terminates. Therefore, coterminous. They terminate in the same spot. Bad. You don't. Let's go ahead and fix it right now so you can see what I'm. Normally I wouldn't do it right this second, but since I pointed out, let's go ahead and fix it right now. So I want to I want to mix up a dark, dirty green. And in this case, I don't want it to be transparent. So, all right, so this is the color, and I'm just going to make sure that this particular bush terminates above the lake. So I don't have, some people call them kissing objects, two objects come together, and touch right there. Same idea. You do not want coterminous objects. You do not want kissing objects. Now that I've done that, I need to, here's the rule. Anytime you do dark, you're not done. You have to follow up with light. So like I just did dark bush, dark leaves. That means I'm not done with this little bit of the painting. I'm not done until I come back and do light around the leaves. Especially good if the light is behind the dark. Then it's especially helpful, useful, so on and so forth. All right. Let's a little bit of tree holes over here. So I want to mix up a color that's just about like this. By the way, at the moment I'm quite happy with the color of these this first row of bushes back here, trees, whatever it is. Quite happy with that. Also quite happy with the color of the second row of trees or bushes back here. Quite happy with that. Quite happy with the color of the sky. So we have layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the reason I'm saying that is not so I can brag and tell you how happy I am with my painting. No. The reason for saying that is so I can describe to you, so how did I achieve these colors that I am evidently so happy with? So glad you asked. Here's the answer. Layer, 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 layer. Now, all of those layers are superfluous, absurd, ridiculous, useless if they're opaque. One opaque layer kills everything underneath it. So when I say layer, 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 I'm talking either about transparent or translucent layers. Now, can you do opaque layers? Of course, of course. Yeah, there is a place for opaque layers. But generally speaking, it's not plastering. That would be a completely different world of painting. All right, let's see if I've got the right color. Yeah, good. Close enough. Just slightly lighter than what's already there. Now, what I'm doing right now is really kind of a cross between fuzz layer and final edit. But that's all right. So I'm cheating my technique, if you will, a little bit. And what led to it is my desire to put some... Now here we go. These really are tree holes. Why? Because a tree behind a tree. And again, to create the effect, the paint that I'm putting on right now has to be exactly the same color as this tree out here. The dots have to match the background, right? Otherwise, you will not achieve the effect you're looking for. And here we are once again back to a human being's inability to paint randomness, to create chaos. Very difficult. And so I'm fighting against it with everything I am, trying to, and so consciously, what that means is I'm making sure that these dots are different size, different shape, different distances from one another. All those things are very helpful in at least approaching randomness. Very difficult. And again, I think it's probably technically impossible for a human being to create true randomness. But I don't need to create true randomness. I just need to create the illusion of randomness. Sky holes, this is good old, somebody in my little community, one of you regulars, a couple years ago now. Sky holes, poorly executed, become sky dots. Again, they should be called tree dots. You understand. Let's use the traditional language. Sky holes, poorly executed, become sky dots. That's so true. Just laughed out loud when one of you guys said that in your chat a couple years ago. Just hilarious. Hilarious because it's so true. Only those of us who are trying to paint you know, slap our knee and say, oh my goodness, that describes my sky dots perfectly. All right, I decided so I'm abandoning the fuzz layer for a minute. Since I had a dirty green, dull green on my brushes, I decided to continue doing some dull green stuff. And that would be over here, some of the up close foliage that's in the shade and the dark over here. So leaves, this painting is full of foliage, right? We have a canopy of up close leaves here, a little further away leaves here and here, further away and further away, then up close weeds and bushes. So this whole thing is a veritable clinic on how to paint foliage. It's one of those words that's hard to say and be understood. Foliage. 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 Is it foliage or foliage? Good grief. Sometimes the English language can be so it can be so frustrating. Some little humor for you English majors. Do you know how language is like a rolling river? It never stops moving. You can never look at the same river twice. You ever heard that philosophical guru-esque rumination? You can never look at the same river twice because it's always moving on. Language is like that. You can never look at the same language twice. It's always moving on. And there are like an ever-rolling stream. There are two groups of people, if you will, that cause language to move on, to roll. I don't know if you've heard this before. This is one of I grew up in a family of philologists. That means people who love language and love words. So this kind of stuff came up naturally in my home growing up. There are two categories of people who cause language to move. To be really rude and crude, those two categories are smart people and dumb people. It's very insensitive of me. Very insensitive. Shame on me. Okay, forget. I'll repent in a little while, but let me just continue. Smart people and dumb people. Smart people, and in my opinion, the goal is to be one of the smart people. Now, there's a group of people that try with all their might to keep language from flowing, and we call those people English majors. That's right. English majors. So let me pick on the dumb people because that's more fun. So language flows and goes on because people misunderstand the language. I've talked about this before. Then just has nothing to do with art. I'm just rambling while I paint. If you don't like it, go to somebody else's channel. Go watch Andrew Tischler. A good painter, and I think all he talks about is painting. So, and a few minutes ago, I used a word. So language. By the way, this is an official science. I'm not just making this up. I'm not just making this stuff up. No, siree. I have books to prove that what I'm saying is true. Okay, I'm done with the foliage. So, ignorant people are continually making up words because they don't know they're ignorant. And I just used one a little while ago. For instance, there are two words that are in the English are roughly similar to each other. Frustrated, with an R, frustrated, and flustered. And the meanings are actually, you know, roughly similar to each other. So they lodge in sort of the same part of your brain. And because they lodge in the same part of your brain, then people get mixed up. And they create a new word called flustrated, which means frustrated and flustered at the same time. So anyway, that's what people do, and it cannot be stopped. It will always be thus. But I do want to say, you don't want to be at the cutting edge of the dumb group, because people will judge you by the language that you use. So, boys and girls, this is I'm talking to you now. You want to be one of the smart ones. And then, in my opinion, language advances because people like me make up new words on purpose, which drives English majors crazy. We could go on, but I'll stop there. Too late. I already went too long, didn't I? Oh my. I'm trying now to mix up a light blue to do some of the lake and some of the lake holes back here. Maybe, yeah, this might end up being my last touch on the lake. Oh, wait, okay, hang on. I've got a little bit of instruction, art instruction. Thank God he's going to get back to talking about art. Let's talk about sky holes again. So I've already said it's impossible for you or me to create true randomness. And yet that's what we want to try to create the illusion of in our paintings, right? Nature does not arrange itself in nice, orderly bits of leaves. It's random, quote unquote. So one of the best ways to emulate, to try to achieve the illusion of randomness is, listen to this, sky holes, don't do them just once. You don't come to the stage, the phase in your painting where, okay, now it's time for sky holes. Again, the term should be tree holes, but I'm just using the traditional term at the moment just to keep from driving you all batty. All right, so here's the better way to do trees. You do layer, 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 layer. Are you getting a theme here? And again, if you want to slap me, I don't know if you want to slap me. No. I'm glad you're all far away from me. No, if you want to slap me into a category, if you want to try to come up with, well, what do we be? I mean, I call my style abstract realism, right? But if you want a better description, you could say I'm the transparent guy. That's what I usually say at that point. I'm Dan Nelson. Who is that guy? Oh, that's right. He's that guy that paints in layers and layers of transparent, right? But let me give you another word. And again, I'm just trying to help you stick me in a pigeonhole so while you're learning how to paint, you can put me in the right pigeonhole. Here's another one. I'm the layer guy. Layer, it's hard to say that word several times in a row. L-A-Y-E-R. Layer, 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 layer. Sounds like I'm saying trap, 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 trap. Only you English majors are going to get that one. All right. You philologists are going to get that one. Everybody else is going, trap? What? Okay, so how do you achieve believable foliage? Layer, comma, layer, comma, layer, ad infinitum. When in doubt, throw in a little Latin. All right. So how do you do layers in sky holes? Okay, glad you asked. Here we go. Light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. There you go. So it's not, every layer is not light or dark. You go back and forth. Just like just a minute ago, I did dark on that particular bush. In just a minute, I'm going to do, once again, I'm going to abandon my quasi-fuzz layer. I still have some fuzz to do, by the way, on these pillars and the corner of the bridge here, these and right there. but I'm kind of working my way forward, which is a very traditional way to paint, of course. But give me just a minute, and I'm going to, oh boy, my wife's home.
Special delivery.
Look at baby, here's what came yesterday. I'm so excited about this. Okay, commercial time for you guys. Hey, listen, they're not even paying me to do this. Can you believe that? The best earphones in the world, Raycon. I'm wearing one. Goes up to 6 hours in one charge. And this little container is a charging pack itself. Isn't that great? So,
something else came.
Yep, something else came that I'm excited about. So I'm really excited about those new things. Oh, and this is something else that I ordered, but I forget what it is. I think, oh, I know what it is. It's a Thunderbolt cable for our computer downstairs.
Oh, terrific. I'll take it back down then.
Yep, thanks.
Okay.
Good to see you. Did you have a good time?
Awesome.
Okay, love you.
Okay, love you.
Bye. Okay, I think I'm done. What did I tell you over and over? Virtually impossible for a painting to have too much atmosphere. These are rules, by the way. Some of the stuff that I'm saying is, believe me, these are old masters' rules. This is not anything new. One of the things I am encouraged, by the way, they haven't taught real painting in the university and the academy for 100 years. But with the flattening of the world through the internet, the universities are losing, the art establishment is losing its death control grip on the art world, and young people are more likely to learn how to draw by putting their stuff online through, DeviantArt or something like that. That's probably an old one by now, I don't know. And I'm quite encouraged to see that the art being done by most young people, in fact, not the ones that major in art in college, they're doing the same old ridiculous crap that we were doing in the mid-70s. Think about it. Same. Take any young person who's graduating, especially with an MFA in art, in the year 2000, you can't drive a razor's edge between the kind of work that most of them are doing and the kind of work that we did in 1975. You could not distinguish it at all. It is virtually identical. That should give you pause. All right. And yet they congratulate themselves on being so cutting edge. It's not cutting edge at all. Oh, man. A little bit of this water again before I leave the blue stuff entirely. Let's do something the matter with my music down back there, isn't it? Come on, music, you can do it. I'm doing fuzz now, eh? With little tiny brushes. That's kind of unusual. What was I talking about? Oh, I was going to go back to doing, that's a nice little bit of trick right there. A little bit of blue glow. That's a nice touch. Glad I accidentally did that. Happy little accident there. I'm not smart enough to paint good, but I'm smart enough to see some good painting when it appears in front of me. All right, now let's go back to foliage, achieving realistic bushes, leaves, trees. By the way, the same thing applies to any highly variegated texture. Hair, if you were doing a nose this big, the pores of the skin, dog fur, clouds, grass, anything that's highly variegated, mixed, scrambled, how do you achieve a believable, good-looking, scrambled subject matter? The answer is layer, layer, layer. And again, that is really not a Dan Nelsonism. That is plain old-fashioned, old masters how to paint ism. That is not anything. That's not anything esoteric on my part. That is straight up how to paint. Russian painting. There's a bunch of old Russians, still new Russians, still alive today. That paint amazingly, amazing. Oh, right. I'm mixing up a dark, dull green, quite dark, quite dull, and slightly, by the way, breaking my rule, because the rule is you get dark with transparent colors and light with opaque colors. But the dark that I've just mixed up actually has a tiny bit of opacity, tiny bit of, right, so I'm breaking the rule. How do you know when it's time to break a rule? The answer is when there's a countervening rule. Sometimes rules crash into each other. And when that happens, you have to decide which rule gets the priority and which one is going to get violated. There you go, just in case you ever wondered. There are, of course, there's times for breaking rules. We have lost our music, isn't that funny? Yep, everything's still turned on. I'm going to reload. Give me, see if it comes later. So the reason I've got it's slightly opaque is because what I'm doing right now is so subtle that if I did it with transparent, it would be too jarring. It would come forward too much. It wouldn't fit in. And I want it to, in a way, I want it to look like the marks I'm making right now have been there all along. Does that make sense? I don't want them to look like I just did them just now. I want them to look like they've been there a while, so to speak. So that's why I'm doing. Can I zoom in here a little bit? Yeah, let's let you watch me up close for a bit. Okay, so I want this to look like a bush that's in front of that more distant tree, right? Of course, you understand. Hang on, gang. So strange. What has happened to my sound? All right, I can't mess with it any longer. Oh, there we go. So the last thing I did on this little bush were the holes. Now I'm going to come back and do anti-holes. That is, dark marks that are in front of the light stuff in the background. Okay, so this is what I mean by layer, layer, layer. Each layer should make the illusion of bushness, foliage, leaves, a little more believable. Do you see that? Now, someone could say, well, couldn't you do it like Andrew Tischler does it all in one layer? The answer is yes, you could do a ton of tongue painting, hyper-controlled, death control grip on the brush and so forth, and achieve something roughly similar. But no, it wouldn't be similar because it would have that hyper-controlled, stilted, stultified, right? Every mark you make on your canvas leaves an absolutely indelible history of the movement that you made to leave that mark. So if you're painting like this, you couldn't see my tongue stuck out. Trust me, my tongue was stuck out. Then you're going to leave marks that look like they were done in that way. See? So when I'm painting, as you can see here, whoops, you could till I got off camera, fairly freely, quickly, confidently, loosely, if you will. let's go ahead and finish that little area right there before I leave then. The rule is, actually, in fact, there's two rules that work right now. And I can do both of them at the same time. They're not conflicting rules. These two rules happen to agree with each other, so that's nice. So one rule is darks first, lights last. So anytime that you make dark marks on your canvas, you're not done with the painting. The rule is, every rule can be broken, but the rule is you follow up with light marks. All right. Then there's another rule, which I'm also following at this moment, so it makes it really easy, no confusion. This rule is a little more of a surprise to you beginners, or to you, especially to you early journey painters, you people who are fairly early on your journey. Here it is. Are you ready? Take a breath. Whenever you can, paint stuff by not painting the thing, but by painting what's behind it or around it. Let me say that again. That's kind of confusing and a mouthful. So right now I'm painting this bush, right? Primarily. Whenever you can, don't paint this bush. Render this bush, not by painting the bush, but by painting what's behind it, around it, through it. So as you can see, I am actually able to accomplish both of those rules at the same time. The two rules are darks first, lights last. And the other rule is don't paint the thing, paint the thing around the thing. Some of you are going to rightfully ask me why. And I just have to decide literally whether I have the energy to answer that question. It's a very good question. And frankly, I just don't feel, I just want to leave it. Trust me, I'm telling you the truth. Some other time, keep watching me, and I'll tell you why another day. Whoops, sorry, I just kicked you. You're still pointing the right way? Yeah. I want to do a little bit of palette knife stuff. So I'm back to dark here, by the way. How do you paint believable foliage? Foliage? The answer is light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. Layer, layer, layer. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you just saw me do 3 layers. Just in the last 20 minutes, you saw me light, dark, light, dark. And theoretically, once you do dark, you're going to follow up with another light layer, right? That is right. But so much for the theory. I think in this case, I'm actually going to cheat. And that's enough. Whew. Good grief. That is enough. Let's back you guys out of the way now so I can paint. Get out of my way, would you? Yeah. Let's go to what I was setting out to do when I first started. Other than I did the glaze first. What I was planning to do next was fuzz layer, and then I did some fuzz in the sky and here, and then never got any closer than the lake when it came to fuzzing. So let's go back to some fuzz, right? Fuzz layer is opaque colors, like what's on my palette is a pile of opaque paint. That just means it has titanium white in it. Typical standard, typical traditional oil painting stuff on my palette, right? Traditional oil painting, which is opaque. But I'm going to apply it so thinly, I'm going to scumble it on. Scumble with a C. Scumble, not stumble. We hope not to stumble with a T, but scumble with a C. Scumble. All right. And if I'm mixing up here a color that at the moment I don't like very much. I still don't like it very much. By the way, I virtually never mix paints with my palette knives. Don't know why, just the way I am, evidently. I mix with my brushes, and of course I'm always painting with two brushes, almost always painting with two brushes, so that means I'm always mixing with two brushes, which means I dirty twice as many brushes as the average artist. For every color change, I dirty two brushes. All right, I have her pale yellow ochre, warm white. Let's see if it's the right color. I'm not positive that it is, but I'm going to do some fuzz. Especially on this up close pillar, right? Roman ruin. If there's any epicenter of focal point in this painting, I think it would have to be that pillar, I believe. Yeah, and that's okay. I'm going to add some more titanium white to this, so now it's definitely what is on my brush is warm white. And here I'm following my normal practice. Anytime you put a color, an opaque color on your painting, you follow up often immediately, as I'm doing now, by applying a slightly lighter version on top of it. Again, as William and I were talking about his commission, one of the things we agreed on was this feeling of sun-spangled light coming through the forest and so forth. And so that's, I hope it's clear. We got sun spangled on. I'll do more of this. Speckly sun there on all of this stuff, on the foreground, on the bridge, on the path here. So I hope that I'm accomplishing what he's after. I can't believe Uncle's watching the news and watching me at the same time. That's insulting. I'm kidding. That is pretty funny. I'm as bad as the news. I'm no better than the news. Okay, now we've moved back to... I have a feeling that the next thing I'm going to do after this very controlled fuzz now, by the way, if you've watched me do my traditional fuzz layer in the last year or two, you know, I'm usually, it's like, you know, if the pillar is here, the fuzz would go that wide. Well, that's what I did essentially on the first fuzz layer on this painting. So this one, this is fuzz 2. So it's considerably more controlled than fuzz 1. If you want a thing in your painting, let's talk about outdoors, sunshine. If you want anything in your painting to feel as though the sun is just smacking right down on it, then the light that you paint on that thing is soft edged. Okay, and that's counterintuitive to what most people would think. And again, if you follow your snapshot on your camera or your camera phone camera will not serve you well. It will, like if I took a picture of a pillar like this with sun shining on it, the edge of this pillar would be razor sharp. It'd be white here and dark here with an absolute, and again, if you're not an experienced painter, you will accidentally reproduce what you see in your photograph. Okay, not to good effect. So the softer the edge is, the more it has a sense of bright sun hitting it. Does that make sense? If you want it to, if it's a subdued, oomy, gloomy, well then it's soft edge for another reason. It could be soft edge if it's a gloomy painting, melancholy, gray, foggy, then it's soft edge because of the fog. So there you go. Soft edges always win. That's an exaggeration, but until you learn that rule, until you master light, then just follow the rule. Make your light edges soft, not hard. And again, what I'm saying here is not Dan Nelsonisms. This is not unusual to me. This is plain old-fashioned masters, old masters painting rules. All right, I think that's pretty nice. Let's mix up a different color now, back to something more orange and yellow, something much deeper. There we go. Oxide red, which is a brown, is a very, very good for achieving a nice mellow light orange color too. Where to start now? I'm going to start right here because there's a little bit of sun. See that mark right there? That's coming off. Okay. As I like to say, witness my distress. In other words, there ain't any. Okay, so when stuff like that happens, don't beat yourself up. Don't stomp. Don't cuss. Don't beat yourself up. And it's just part of the business, man. Okay, let me show you. It'll come off now. Hang on. Here's a good teaching moment. Let me zoom. Let me bring you guys back in so you can see what I'm talking about. So when I was doing some of the fuzz, I'm not painting in a highly controlled manner, so my left-hand brush came up and made that big slab of yellow stuff flying up there in the air. Okay, so I'm going to remove it. Now, okay, hang on, I'm going to back you up again. I'm going to take that mark off. You have to see my face for a moment. Let me show you how not to take off that mark. You ready? Don't take it off this way. Oh, I made a mistake. I'm exaggerating. The thespian, the inner thespian is coming out. That's the spirit of eraser. Do not let the spirit of eraser, the spirit of grumpy, come on you. No. All right. That's stupid. You don't get mad. Now, I'm saying all this because I know some of you guys do get mad. You understand? I know how you live. All right, so here's how we do it. I'm going to do it with a rag. I am not hell-bent on removing that mark. In fact, that would be a waste of opportunity. I have a finger in a rag. I'm going to paint like an artist because I'm an artist, because I'm creative, because I'm a brilliant genius painter like you are. And so I'm going to use that mark. Well, I basically just smudged it out, okay? But I didn't obliterate it completely. That would have been grumpy, spirit eraser stuff. Does that make sense? All right. That was not as dramatic as I had hoped, but you got the idea. Don't get into that grumpy stuff. Whew. Now, what I'm doing right now is pretty good classic fuzz layer stuff. Second fuzz layer, so I'm not quite as wild and crazy as normal, but still fairly loose, fairly free, right? I want it to look, of course, as though the sun is coming through all the forest way off to our right. And I want, when sun comes through the forest, the places, the things, the objects that it does hit just explode with light. Right? That's play of light. Play of light is not, oh, the sun's coming from the right. No, that is not play of light. That's kindergarten level. No, do not pat yourself on the back for getting that correct. You get ejected from the game for getting it wrong, but you don't get any points on the board for getting it right. Does that make sense? For getting what right? Which way is the light coming from, quote unquote. Do not give yourself credit for that, because if you do, you will sit down and think, oh, I have accomplished. No, you haven't accomplished anything. I mean, congratulations, you didn't get kicked out of the game, but you didn't put any points on the board. Okay, you get points on the board for, quote unquote, for play of light. And play of light is words like exploding, refracting, glancing, blowing up, violent words reflect the concept of creating play of light. Not passive, easy words like the sun is, even the word the sun is hitting, that's a normal word. The sun is hitting the path. No. Hitting is not nearly violent enough term. That is not play of light. That's ordinary. That's, that's little kid language. Look, Ma, the sun's hitting the path. Yeah. Don't paint sun hitting the path. You have to hit sun glancing off, smashing, exploding off the path. Another way to put it is play of light is not what the light is hitting. Okay, listen to this. Play of light is not, especially like outdoors, play of light is not what the sun is hitting. Play of light is what it does next. Never said it that way, but that's a good way to put it. Did you catch that? Play of light is not, oh, the sun's hitting the bridge. No. Play of light is what is the sun hitting next, or what is the sunlight doing next? And it's glancing, smashing, glancing, slicing, dicing. Wait, there's more. With your Vegematic 1995. Play of light is dramatic stuff happening to your light, not boring stuff happening to the light. All right? Now, since you're with me, since we've gone that far, I'm going to save those brushes for a minute and put those down. And indeed, there are a few places here where, quote, I got carried away. Again, can you see my face? No. Please, witness my distress. In other words, there ain't any, all right? I know I keep doing that, but that's right. Some of you need to keep hearing it. And I'm going to do the rag thing again. But once again, the spirit of eraser is nowhere in my vicinity. I'm not going to erase. That's grumpy, stupid, waste of energy. I'm going to paint with a rag. And there's certain bits of flyaway strokes that are working quite nicely, and I'm going to leave them. But there's other strokes that are not working quite so well. And it's not all logical, by the way. Like here's a stroke right here. I don't know if you can see it. Does not make any logical sense. Well, you could say, well, maybe that's a weed. Maybe, but no, that's not why I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it just because it looks good. But then there's other marks. See, it's part of the beauty of painting, with this scumbling action. It's pretty easy to dial it down, to diminish it. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. But again, it won't work if you're beating yourself up. If you're saying, oh, I'm so stupid, why did I make that mark? No, you understand? I'm painting with my finger. Never paint with your fingers. I say that every time I paint with my fingers. So you can't sue me if you paint with your fingers and die of finger cancer. You can't blame me because I told you not to do it every time I did it. Golly, can we do that? Can we sue him for finger cancer? No? All right. So that was a glow fuzz layer number 1. Oh, sometimes, exactly, sometimes I call the fuzz layer the glow layer, for obvious reasons, right? Now I'm mixing up a slightly lighter, whiter version of what I just had on my brushes. And because this is a good place to stop. I painted the orange fuzz stuff all the way from here. All of this is essentially all the same color. Okay? Now you or me, a lesser artist, might let it go at that. But I'm convinced that the ordinary viewer of paintings would subconsciously, not consciously, but subconsciously, they would see that that's the same color, a sameness of color, which equals mundaneness, boringness, repetition, lack of variety. So that's not good. So the practice that I have, of course, as you've heard many times, is mix up a slightly lighter version of what's already there. Now, can you do this more than once? Oh, absolutely. You know, theoretically, you could do it forever, but pretty soon you'd have pure titanium white, you know. So, no, theory is one thing, real is another. So, but even just doing it this one time, that is to say, this trick, this practice of, and it's, of course, it's on top of what's already there, but not covering the whole area. For instance, here's a whole area of orange, and I'm just going to put it in a few places, a few of these stones in the bridge that are, in my mind, particularly capturing the sunlight, reflecting the sunlight. I don't like the way that looks. Sorry, good. Mess it up. Looked good now. Okay, does that make sense? I have a hunch that because I covered such a wide area with that medium orange, and now I'm covering up a much less area with a lighter orange, but it's still quite a bit of repetition. So in fact, this time I actually am going to do this practice twice. That is to say, in just a minute when I finish doing this lighter orange on top of the medium orange, as soon as I finish, I'm going to mix up even lighter orange and come back and do it on top of what I'm doing right now. Make sense? At least that's what I think. Like, I won't know till I stop, you know, stand back, take a breath, and look and see what I think. Yes, indeed. I was right. So once again, just picking up a slab of titanium white. By the way, my titanium, I'm sure you know, is Alkyd fast drying. That's not a brand name. That's a kind of titanium, a kind of oil paint, Alkyd oil paint, which dries faster. That way I can apply fairly thick slabs of this color and it'll still be dry by tomorrow. It'll still dry quickly. Titanium white is a particularly slow drying color, and the first time I made the mistake of slapping down some good impasto thick titanium white and the painting wasn't dry literally for 6 weeks. I said, to heck with that. And that's years ago. That's when I started buying Alkyd titanium white. All right, I like that okay. It has a kind of sameness about it that I'm not entirely happy with. So, there we go. I like all of that, except up here I didn't like that part so much. So simple finger wipe takes care of it. Same thing here, I think. Now, please notice those kinds of marks I'm doing with quite a bit of pressure, dry brush, speed, and distance. In other words, you don't go boop and make an ugly little flip. No, you go boom. My hand went all the way to the top of the canvas probably. All right, same thing here. Left-handed. There we go. That's nice. That's nice. A little bit too much up here. No big deal. Never paint with your fingers. All right. That's nice. One more. That is nice, baby. Whoever baby is, I don't know. That looks nice. I have a hunch now. Let me back up and let you see the whole canvas. I still haven't even tackled that eagle. Isn't that crazy? Let's do that soon. I would like you to agree with me that there's a lot of enchanting, glowing happening right now in this painting. It's not done, but I'm going to try to not to lose. Does it look glowy to you? I hope it does. The atmosphere is glowing, glow, lake's glowing, this tree's going to be glowing. The deer, which you probably can't even see, you can barely see, is going to stay just, buddy, this is what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm going to bring it out just a tiny bit, but not much. I want people to see that like the fourth time they look at the painting, okay? I want it to be that subtle. Like, did you see the deer? What? All right, since I've still got some orange-ish stuff on my brushes. By the way, when I'm doing this, I use just enough liquid. I don't want this paint to be transparent, of course. I only use it if I feel like I need it to make the paint a little bit wetter. Okay, so it's to taste. It's just enough. So I've got another batch of medium, like a number 5 orange, maybe a number 4. 0 is white, 10 is black. And I want to do this. No, it needs to be darker than that. Okay. Even though the light hitting this tree is much darker, I still want this sense of sun-spangled sun coming through leaves and glow. Glow. Have you got the glow picture yet? Let's paint some more with a rag. I hope that my internet is not as patchy as my music is for you guys. My music keeps going off, which I assume means slow internet speed. That would be I apologize for that if my feed is very herky-jerky. All right, now, having done one color orange, what am I going to do next? Of course, mix up slightly lighter than what I just put there and do it on top of some of the mid orange that I just put down. right? Get it? It's a kind of a practice, a rule of practice for me. I do it practically all the time. Let's sneak in a little bit of sunlight escaped all the way down here. You know, I wouldn't mind, right at this minute, I wouldn't mind looking at a Maxfield Parrish tree. If you're not familiar with Maxfield Parrish, you should be. Maxfield Parrish with two R's, P-A-R-R-I-S-H. I've talked about him quite a bit before. He was my go-to guy. He was my main inspiration from about 1986 to 96. And my opinion, one of the master tree painters in history. Very unusual technique that he used. All right, I'm tired of doing that. So one of the practices, one of the things I recommend is I don't have to be done. I don't know if I'm going to do any more orange glow up here or not, but I'm tired of it, so I'm going to move on. In fact, good grief, I've been broadcasting for hours. This guy just never quits. He just drones on and on and on. Some of you are watching me to fall asleep, I'm sure. And I'm ignoring all your chats. Hello, Bethany Barrows. Thank you very much for your kind words. And Areli Barajas. Wow, amazing. Thank you. You're very kind. May Fine Art. Do I have some sore throat irritation because of paint? Not that I know of. Good question. Well, those are old chats, aren't they? David suggests some sun rays. That's a possibility. And David suggests that all my trees, branches are coming up. That's very possible. So thanks for that tip. I will look into that. I'm going to do just a little bit more and then call this broadcast. Good grief, you know I've been going at it long enough. Knowing when to quit is not my strong suit. Also, I've got little piles of titanium white on my palette here, and they've skinned over. They've been there for several days. I put my paints in, and when I'm done painting, I put them all in the freezer, and they keep quite well that way. But eventually, these little piles of paint do, in fact, dry out. So I'm close to that point. With some of this right now, you know, when it skins over, do you know what I'm talking about? It's not quite as fun to paint when your titanium white is skinned over. Actually painting a little speckly stuff right now. Foam spray. Boy, evidently the water's really flying out of that. I didn't realize that till just now. I like it. I don't do that very often. Donkey, 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 donkey. But seems to be working for me right now, so. Never paint with your fingers. And I still haven't done the eagle. Well, I'll have to do that without your company. And buddy, I hope you get to watch this. Let me tell you where I'm going from here then. Well, first of all, and I have a print of that eagle around here somewhere. First of all, I'm going to paint the eagle. And looking for that. Oh, and I'm going to paint the deer too. I haven't done much of that. Here's my deer model. There's my eagle model. I think I'm liking this painting. Good news, buddy. I think I'm liking the painting quite a bit. After this layer of light stuff that I've been doing, for quasi fuzz layer, I think I'll be, oh, hang on, that's not the right color. I think I'll be doing another layer of dark details, I think. And then probably some broken color. So I think I'll finish this painting tomorrow, by the way. Buddy, if you're watching. Buddy and William, by the way, are the same person. They have two names for the same. Real names. William, nickname Buddy. I think I'll finish this tomorrow, Buddy, and if I do, I'll certainly broadcast. It was when I did an earlier commission for Buddy, and he watched me do it on YouTube, and it was then that I discovered, wait a minute, this is a good marketing. Not a lot of people have taken me up on it yet, but I think the concept is a good one of commission me, I'll do a painting for you, you get to watch the entire process as many times as you want. You are correct, David, about too many coming out at this angle. Here's my rough sketch, and it was a little bit better here. Hang on, this one right here. Here's the main culprit right here. So let's make that branch go straight up more in it. That will help break the. See, that's a good example of human beings can't do randomness. We slide into pattern in spite of ourselves. So thanks for mentioning that, David. I was not going to say anything and just fix it after I stopped broadcasting. I don't want to encourage you too much. Here we go. I'll mess with that a little bit more. In fact, I'll mess with it right now. If I put a sky hole or two right here to make it clear that branch, whoops, those sky holes are too light. What did I say? It has to be exactly the color. That's what happens if you don't make it exactly the color. It doesn't look like it becomes a dot, not a sky hole. That's better, and I might mess with it a little more. I think I need a dark branch coming up from right there. Yeah. I was going to add some dark stuff up here anyway. I guess I'm doing it right now in spite of myself. More later. All right, I was going to say, what am I doing next? A little bit of work down here, just a little bit of tiny bits of accent, not much, tiny, tiny bits. Little bits of sun hitting leaves up close. I also want some dark branches going in front of this water, because right now the water's right out in front. I want to push it back, so I'll put some, like, I'll do a quick placeholder mark. Won't necessarily be the permanent one or the final one, but that gets us started, that's all. Yeah, I'll go layer, 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 layer there too. Light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. So that I get a real sense of dimension space there. I'll do a tiny bit of work in the stones, probably with some pencil. Being careful not to do too much at this late date, but just enough. And again, the reason I use pencil is for abstract reason. It's very unconventional to use pencils like at this stage in an oil painting, but I just like the way those scratchy, feathery little lines look right alongside the more smudgy paint marks. It's just an abstract issue. I think it just looks cool. And I only started that, what, 3 or 4 years ago, and then, as I've said often, I saw two other artists, one in Scottsdale, Arizona, and one in Raleigh, North Carolina, who had paintings in a bin. Some of their paintings, they used pencil. Some of their paintings, they did not use pencil. And it was great, because I was able to see somebody else's work right there, side by side, and in both cases, I considerably preferred their paintings that had the scratchy pencils in it. Isn't that great? So that was it's hard to be objective about your own stuff. But when you can look at somebody else and say, no, the paintings with the pencils are definitely better. So that was a fun little discovery there. I'm not sure if I'm finished. I like this one guy being, it's all in shade. To me, that gives a real sense of depth, because we get the feeling that, that's all in shade. But I'm not sure. Well, I'm just going to leave him for now. Oh, and then I have to redo some of the vines. The vines hanging down from these pillars, I think, are quite critical to the feeling of the painting. I mentioned last week or two when I was working on this that I've lived essentially in the Midwest, northern Midwest, Michigan, Ohio, Minnesota, and I've lived in the Southwest twice, Texas, 9 years of my adult life in Texas, and now I've lived 30 years in North Carolina. And the woods, the forests in this part of the country are just swarming, that's not the word, with vines. I mean, there's vines everywhere, just like this kind of stuff. You walk through the woods in North Carolina, natural, wild woods that haven't been cropped or trimmed or anything, you're going to have a bunch of vines. And some of them are poison ivy vines, as big around as your arm. If you live in North Carolina, I think you really learn what poison ivy looks like. We had it everywhere else, but nothing like here. Worst mosquitoes? Minnesota by far. Other people think you got bad mosquitoes. You ain't seen nothing. All right. Flora and fauna, we covered all around here. Let me see, any other, infamous crimes. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that encouraging. Over the Dream 99, mesmerizing. Thank you very much. Gemma Zoe Jones, thank you. Likes my dappled light. And Vignesh Padm, okay, hang on. I'm assuming the G is silent, right? It's not Vignesh, it's Vinesh, I'm assuming. Correct me if I'm wrong. Padmavati. That's going to be my guess. Padmavati. I might be wrong. Forgive me. Hey, Dan. I am red-green colorblind. Does being colorblind affect the artist's talent? Can you give any advice for colorblind people? Very good question. Very good question. Thank you for asking that. I actually have a very good friend years ago. I haven't seen him in a while, but he was a good friend and still would be if we ran into each other, who was mostly colorblind. Now, he did, I must say, he did almost exclusively abstract, non-objective painting. So that's one solution. I know other artists who have been colorblind. My answer would be, Vignesh, just go for it, man. Just go for it. Do what looks good to you with the tools you've been given. I would certainly say, well, let me say, here's a good encouraging word. Values are way more important than color, okay? And, in my opinion, texture is more important. I won't say way more important, but I'm going to say texture is more important than color, and values are way more important than color. So, in my book, color is about number 4, behind even composition. Composition is more important than color. So there you go. Color is number 4 in order of importance, in my opinion. Most people, non-artists, don't think that. They think it's all about the color. As a famous teacher once said, values do the work, color gets the credit. So there you go. So you learn values. And one of the ways to do that for all of us is to, I'll do it right now, to view, this is perfect, to view your painting in a gloomy, semi-dark room. Because the colors disappear largely, and all you're left with are the values. And if your painting works in this light, then it's probably working. If it doesn't work in this light, it's probably not working. In fact, as I look at my monitor right now, and it's actually brighter on my monitor than it is in real life. So that would be my answer. Yeah, just go for it, man. If you've been given a gift of art, but you're colorblind, that's all right. You can be a great artist. You don't have to work just in black and white, of course. You're as good as anybody else in monochromatic stuff. But I would say just go for it. And you could probably Google famous artists who were colorblind. I bet you'll get a whole list of them. I bet you will. I can't name off the top of my head, but I remember reading about some in the past. Anyway, that's if you've been given the gift of art, but not the gift of color, then that you be the artist you're supposed to be. Let's see what happens. Go for it. All right. Thanks, gang. Thanks for your company. I have been, like I said, droning on forever. You helped me get a lot of work done. Buddy, I'm pretty close to finished. And I'm not just playing with you. I really am. I like this painting. It's really a lot of fun. I'm quite excited, by the way, what I just did down here with this water. Again, I'm going to go back and forth. I want dark branches in front of light water. So that means I do light, dark a couple times to really achieve that look. Hang on, I'm thinking. Too much of a new subject. I've worn you guys out, halfway worn myself out, so I'm going to stop there. I have thoughts about some other things I should do, but that'll do for right now. Again, hope to finish tomorrow, buddy. Thanks, man. And I think we'll probably ship it this time, right? Instead of deliver it in person. Safer that way, eh? Hope you're doing well. Hope you and the whole family are doing well. Peace to you, health to you, and beauty to you. Thanks. Bye.